rumor that seems to never die. DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. We will discuss all the rumors surrounding DeAndre Hopkins. But before we do get into all of that, please do subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chiefs related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. The ongoing saga that just seems never ending. The DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes. And as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, it's been a roller coaster ride. From the start of March all the way to now, it's had the highest of highs where we thought we were going to land DeAndre Hopkins till around draft time when we draft Rashee Rice. We signed Richie James and we think we're moving forward. Now pushing into July, seems like it's taken another twist. And we'll dive right into that twist. But to cover the timeline of DeAndre Hopkins, let's cover it in full and discuss what has taken place in the last couple weeks. Now, as we all do know, DeAndre Hopkins was released by the Arizona Cardinals. And within that span of following last week, maybe two now, he's had visits with the Tennessee Titans and New England Patriots. And one can assume both teams have probably offered him contracts. Now, DeAndre Hopkins has mentioned, per report from Jeremy Fowler, that he is ready just to wait and see and ride it out and basically see what fits him best and what is most comfortable with him. So he may like the New England Patriots. He may like the Tennessee Titans, as reports do mention, but he's waiting to see how this whole offseason comes to, which is the month of July in training camp, and see what other suitors can come into play. And by other suitors, of course, we're going to discuss the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's what Jeremy Fowler mentioned as well, saying that even though it seems like it has died off between talks with the Kansas City Chiefs and DeAndre Hopkins, there's still a little flirting period going there where the Kansas City Chiefs have checked in and have had conversations with DeAndre Hopkins, which I guess is surprising, but shouldn't really be also, because just watching how this all unfolds, maybe, just maybe, DeAndre Hopkins doesn't like or feels like he could get more, even if it's not just the Kansas City Chiefs, but Buffalo Bills, maybe Baltimore Ravens. Maybe he doesn't like the destinations in full with a Tennessee Titans and New England Patriots. Maybe he doesn't see Mac Jones or Ryan Tannehill trying to take him to the promised land. Maybe everything DeAndre Hopkins has preached about, saying he's ready to win championships, is true. And all he wants is a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills to get a contract close to what the New England Patriots or Tennessee Titans have offered. I can really see that. And Jeremy Fowler did mention as well, which all of Chiefs Kingdom has known, is for the Kansas City Chiefs to even be in a bidding or get into DeAndre Hopkins' range for money, they have to extend Chris Jones, which we all knew. And honestly, if the Kansas City Chiefs do that, I'd be more excited that they extended Chris Jones. And if having DeAndre Hopkins as a welcome present not back to KC, but a signing present for Chris Jones, that's a double positive in whole. But my main focus would just be lock down Chris Jones, whether you bring in DeAndre Hopkins or not. I want Chris Jones to be a Kansas City Chief for life. I think, honestly, DeAndre Hopkins is just a nice addition. It's something the Kansas City Chiefs don't need, but if they would be nice. It's more of a luxury because it gets very interesting. As I mentioned, before the draft and during the draft, the Kansas City Chiefs added nice pieces with Rashee Rice, Richie James, and they even brought back Justin Watson. And this wide receiving core is really, really deep to where if you bring DeAndre Hopkins in, someone's going to miss the cut. We're already thinking someone will miss the cut initially, but if you bring in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, it's going to happen. We've heard guys from just Chiefs Kingdom alone saying Richie James may be on the block. Justin Watson, Justin Ross, who has all high potential. One of these guys will miss the cut, and if you bring someone like DeAndre Hopkins, that's a for sure. Which leads me to a point which is kind of funny to say. If you bring in DeAndre Hopkins, does it kind of stunt the growth of the Kansas City Chiefs receiving core? Because you have guys like Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore who are bound and poised and talented enough to take a huge step next year, and everyone expects them to be a wide receiver number 1 or a wide receiver number 2. But if you bring in DeAndre Hopkins, does that kind of halt all that? Because that's something I wouldn't like to see because I'm excited to see these guys be playmakers. And then you got other guys like MVS, Richie James. I had it on the top of my tongue and I completely dropped it. But guys like Richie James and MVS who can be playmakers to where now they're pushed down the depth chart with DeAndre Hopkins coming in. It's going to be interesting to see how it all folds out. I love what the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiving core looks like right now. I just don't know if DeAndre Hopkins is a need, more of a luxury, and could it make things more difficult, which is, like I mentioned, funny to think of because when you think of a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, you think it's an immediate boost impact for a team. But when you focus on the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know because Kansas City, they're already Super Bowl contenders without him and with him. My thing is, if you bring DeAndre Hopkins in, can he elevate the Kansas City Chiefs to a next level? And I've discussed this on the channel time in and time out. Is next level to me means, are you going to try to contend to go like 17-0, which is near impossible to do. But when you bring in guys that talented, it should raise an eyebrow to be like, okay, they're looking more than just a Super Bowl. As crazy as it may sound, because they can already do it right now. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins changes that mold. It's we want to win every game. So that's where my mindset is setting there too. And it's just going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. And even going on to some of DeAndre Hopkins' comments that he's made within this week saying that he feels he is still a legit receiver in this league. And I'm not questioning that by any stretch of the imagination. I believe it. And he also mentioned too, which I believe and which I've been speaking to, is last year he played half the season, was hurt, had suspensions, and still had over 700 yards. And if he played a full season, would have been on pace for 1,400 yards. And I've mentioned that on this channel time and in timeout as well. As he's still very talented. Yes, he has been hurt. Yes, he is an aging receiver. But if you put him in an offense like the Kansas City Chiefs, he's not going to be depended on as just that number one guy where that ball's coming to you every single play. You got Travis Kelce. You could have a DeAndre Hopkins. You still got Kadarius Toney. You got Sky Moore. That football is still going to be spread out a lot, but he would be your new wide receiver number one. Like I said, I don't know how I feel about it. If you would have asked me in March, and if you haven't paid attention to this channel, I was head over heels for DeAndre Hopkins. I would have loved him being the Kansas City Chiefs. But things play out in months, and the Chiefs have improved this roster on the offense and defense and in the wide receiver room where it's like, I don't know if it's a necessity. It would be a nice luxury, but necessity, I don't know. And I think it can complicate things a little more. Not saying it makes the Kansas City Chiefs worse, because it definitely doesn't. But looking more into the future, does it stunt the growth of some of these wide receivers? Could you lose out on a potential guy like a Justin Ross, where I believe he's still a fringe player. No matter how much talent he has, he's still got to prove it on the field. And one of those lower end guys from a wide receiver number 5 to wide receiver number 8 is going to miss the cut because DeAndre Hopkins is on the team. All these things are going to tie in together if DeAndre Hopkins is the Kansas City Chief. I welcome him, but I don't know if it's a need. You let me know, Chiefs Kingdom. Would you be happy if the Kansas City Chiefs actually signed DeAndre Hopkins, or should they stick with what they got? I'm going to close this video off. Please do hit that like and leave that big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. With that, I'm taking off. Y'all take care. Peace.